Okay, good afternoon, everybody, or I suppose good evening, depends on whatever time you end up watching this. Hopefully, whatever we talk about right now will still be relevant whenever you get around to it and it gets posted on Discord, etc. Right, let's just jump straight into it. I'm going to try things a little bit different today. You're going to also just look at some clean charts, do some more simplistic charting before we go on to the ones that have, the EMAs and the vector candles, etc. But starting off with the standard 4 that we kind of see, and what is interesting, this works on the 3-day, the 1 day, and the 4 hour. But with Bitcoin up at the top here, you can actually see, and I will make this a bit bigger, like over the past, 3-4 months now, or 4-5 months now, we've sort of met this major kind of trend line and bounced quite cleanly from it. And each time that has marked, or the previous 2 times, has marked the lowest point in that ranging period that we've actually ended up hitting. And again, last week, the beginning of this week, we've hit that again. We've sort of double tapped it, if you will, over the last couple of days. But we have then had that nice clean move away from it. And if this trend line is to suggest anything before, we may well have seen our ranging low before we make that next move up to the all-time high. So that's just something to just, bigger picture stuff, just kind of draw your attention towards and maybe not try and get too greedy if you wanted to get back into the market, either looking at side steps, whatever it may be. You really now want to be looking at confirmation if this level is going to lose itself as well, just from that clean point of view. We're going to go into much more detail a little bit later on, but I think what is most interesting, and again, my head's always in the way of this, is Bitcoin dominance. So this long-term trend line that we've had going all the way back to 2023 or whenever it was, we have broken it now. We've still got 2 days of this one candle, and this is the first candle that we've gone and broken it on. So let's not start celebrating too much, but we are looking like we have lost that. Now, only 2 weeks ago, sorry, I will blow this up bigger as well. I'm going to put my face back on. We have actually dipped technically lower than where this line has been, but previously, we've dipped down onto this trend line and bounced from it. I think we kind of have to give this candle a couple of days just to see where it's closed. But the fact is, we may well be marking the point in which Bitcoin dominance is seeing a break. Now, how far that break's going to go, we'll have to wait and see. And as I pointed out in the past, there is this level sort of around about 55% that we kind of have to break through as well. That also was the sort of the peak after the Trump pump when he won the election, that sort of alt season rally up to sort of December time. We saw a good bounce from that there. But what I would say is, even if we only get that far and it's a mini alt season, this 5% is going to present a great opportunity in terms of sort of looking at your Bitcoin versus altcoin balance there. So there's definitely an opportunity for that to play out. I have said on the last previous calls, I'm kind of waiting for this. I think we do need to lose this 55 level to get that major alt season. But in the meantime, if we can stick below this level, it's a kind of a point for me where I am going to start that. If you remember that trifecta of seesaws where, okay, Bitcoin dominance looks like it is breaking. How's Ethereum doing? Is the move into Ethereum, or is actually the move into converting into alts with what some of the Bitcoin that I want to play with? So that's good to see. Positive that that's actually happened. There's plenty of reasons why that's happened, but suffice to say that altcoins over the last 2 days have pumped hard, and the ones in the top 10 that have the largest share of that overall market percentage have done very well as well. Ethereum, XRP, 2 of those examples. So we have a look at total market cap. That's climbed up as we've seen, and then we've got BitTensor here, which I appreciate is a little complicated. And when we were on Tuesday night, we were actually down in the sort of like the 340 level. We were below this line. We were talking about where we were heading towards the Gandalf line of 315, and then this yellow sort of trend line down here. But we've had that reversal since then. News and just positive sentiment has taken us away from that. So we've got to just move with that and just have a look at what we've seen. And when we go and have a look at it on the lower time frames with some of the other indicators, there's plenty of patterns that potentially have played out to suggest that maybe we need to start thinking about shifting our bias there. So we'll have a look at those. Right, I want to start, as I say, just with the clean charts, and then we'll have a look in a bit more detail afterwards. Maybe this takes a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but I just want to see how, how well we do looking at this. And what we can kind of see, we talked about it on Tuesday, do a little count for how many times I say that. But we had that move down. So this move down here, sort of taking us down. And the point was, well, where was it? Why was it that we turned around there? And the point that was raised was, well, look, the all-time high that was previously made in sort of late May, let me just change the color of that, was about 112,000. We then obviously broke that, made our new all-time high. We came back and retested this. And that's exactly the level that we turned around on. We saw a very similar thing happen back here. So we had that move up September last year, leaving the 70K region. We got all the way up to, well, actually, technically it was here on the 18th for inauguration, just prior to it, 108,000. And then we had that move back down. The move back down came to 74,000, which lo and behold, tied in around with sort of the 73, 800,000 level from the all-time high in March. So a similar kind of step has occurred. And that just seems to be what happened. It's happened a lot sooner than what we've seen. But in terms of where we're going, that makes sense. I drew it on the last chart, but just to sort of throw it on here again, just so you can kind of see it, we then have sort of this discussion we were talking about. Sorry, let me get this better. With this trend line here. We have to make this a different color now. Let's do green. And it's backed off that. So there's a nice area of confluence there, which kind of helped move that one going up. Now, where have we found ourselves? We've actually found ourselves just effectively coming right the way back up to this previous level of support, which is, for the meantime, certainly today, has kind of turned into a bit of resistance. And what we can kind of see is that we've had this. We've kind of come up there, bounced off that confluence, bounced off the previous all-time high, strong move up this week, a nice weekly candle it'll be, and we're just hesitating in and around this level, which again, no major concerns with how that is playing out. This was, a good 2 or 3 weeks worth of support. Almost every single day, the candle either closed or wicked to it and then bounced from it. So we know that's going to be quite a significant level. What I'm suggesting is if we can get back through this level, then really we're going to be looking at, actually, we should have a decent amount of momentum. We should have bought up a lot of people that had previously sold there and making that move up. Now, whether or not we have the strength to get up to 123,000, that might be a bit of an ask, because we can see how much of a spike that was. But certainly getting back up to that 120,000 level, the top of the range that we're in, I think is all doable. When we look at a couple of other things, so this is something that I was pointing out to me. It's called a fixed range volume profile. And I was just trying to find something that kind of showed the order book on the page, so we can kind of have a look at sort of where all the buys and the sells took place. Someone showed me this. It's fairly new to me, so I'm not like totally au fait with everything. But what you're kind of seeing represented with these chart, these sort of hash lines at the side, is all the buys and the sells. So the buys are in the sort of the bluey kind of color, the sells are in the red. What is interesting, and what you can see again, is look at where the major area, this green line effectively is called the point of control. And it's where the majority of the buys and sells took place in and around. So over this period, you saw me draw it out, over that period, this is where the majority of the activity in that price range has taken place. And lo and behold, it's where we're running into the trouble now. So this point of control, this area control of 118,100 is something that I would be interested in. And I'd like to try and see it get above that. What this does show me that is quite interesting, however, is just look how, I might have to zoom in, but just look how light the volume was to get us off this bottom, which, fine. I thought we might have a bit more, because we can see, the selling in and around that previous all-time high. The buys to get through there wasn't too much, but it's even lighter to get us off the bottom. And we've not had taken that much work to get us back up, especially when you can consider I'm also including all the buys that took place here. So it's fairly light volume that's got us up there, or light orders to get through, but nevertheless, we've found it. And so, yeah, we're running into a position where we've had a lot of buying and selling previously, which may cause us an issue. I'll close that one down. We'll have a look on some lower time frames, again, on the clean chart, see if there's anything that's kind of suggesting where we may go. I'll probably end up putting those lines back on and regret that, but never mind. We get down onto the 4 hour, and I think you're going to see this pattern quite a lot across a lot of the alts as well. But that double bottom W formation seems to have played out quite nicely. Again, right hand side, slightly higher than the left hand side, just kind of how we like that, and then moves up. And we can even start to see some of these pullbacks here, which I presume when we get down to the lower time frame, we look at some of the others, may well be good consolidation periods before the next rise is up. This one, 4 hour time frame, you expect to maybe last a little bit longer. This may just be one. We'd have to wait till we see for EMAs, etc. But what we can see here when we get rid of that W formation and that sort of waistline, if you will, in and around here. So we came up to it, we sort of koboed from it, and then with strength, we know big green candle on the 4 hour, that'd probably be a vector candle when we look at it. Strength, and we've managed to get through, and we started to clear it away. And again, we can kind of actually see, even in the more recent time frames, we're starting to run into that support and resistance. But what is reassuring over the last 8 hours at least is that these candles, decently enough size wicks down to the bottom. We seem to be having some interesting buying back up there as we're going through. I will put it on the hourly just to see if any of these start to make sense. And I mean, that double bottom is still there. I think maybe a rise one here, but for me, maybe not. I think this would be probably the rise one when we break through. Have to see where the 50 EMA is. But again, this looks like it's probably going to be a vector candle. So maybe we might start seeing that first consolidation. But solid groundworks, at least, for us to suggest that we might have a sustained movement up over the weekend. We know weekends are, kind of an interesting time anyway, because it's only the crypto market that's at play. But we have had some relatively positive news with 401ks, with the XRP case pretty much being settled. Sentiment is in the right position for that to happen. So yeah, and I don't think there's any major news announcements today scheduled to potentially scupper us there. We'll come back to Bitcoin when we have a look at everything else. Let's just have a look at some of these other ones. Just on the cleaner charts. Ethereum, I'm not sure what I've done on there. Let's just get rid of that one and this one, because the 4,000 level is still important. And okay, so similar kind of story there. Move up, come back down. We've had that same sort of test, if you will, but then another strong resurgence up. Now, for Ethereum, the real battleground, whether it be psychological, previous price, whatever you want to do it, is that 4,000 level. It has to be. We've got to get through that. I don't think we've been above 4,000 in March 24, we managed it for 2 days. But other than that, we have not made it above 4,000 since 2021. So this really is an important level for us. This has to be it. This is, when we talk about altcoin sentiment, we talk about trying to get retail excited again. I think breaking, holding, and then building off that 4,000 level is totally key to, I've just realized, there we go, face isn't in. Totally key to us actually making the case that actually retail should come back, but retail will come back when they start to see those kind of headlines. A lot of them know what Ethereum is, even if they only dipped their toe in the cycle last time. And for those that may be new to it, looking at some of the bigger alts, I think that's going to attract us. The worry has to be that every time we have been this level over the last 4 years, we've lost it. So as exciting as it is for us to get there, now is not, in my opinion, at 3,913 is not the time to be making your bet with Ethereum. Wait to see what happens at that 4,000 level. We're only talking about a couple of $100 either side of it, just to know where we're going to go before you want to make that move. We go on the 4 hour. There is a W here, but I don't like the W as much on this one. You could argue it's that and it's that, which right hand side is higher, but we had that move up, and this kind of felt like a dead cat bounce, but then it's almost reversal. I can't remember what people call the other one, a live cat drop or whatever. But with this strong move down that we had on the 4 hour, it was important that we got that sort of relief. But if we really wanted this to be a W that would be acceptable, I would have wanted it to pull down a little bit further. The buyers had other interest, and I think that just shows the strength that Ethereum has over the last few weeks, because we did lose this level, but it was bought up pretty quickly. So this was over the weekend shenanigans again, But as soon as the market opened, we came up, we've retested it, and then we've cleared it. And you can kind of, I mean, okay, today we're not, but we actually did make a local high with Ethereum. What's that, this morning, early hours of this morning? Yeah, in the early hours this morning was a local high just under that 4,000 level. So it's definitely some excitement in and around it. And I think, this is, I mean, it's our first chance in really ages to 4,000. So of course it's going to be our strongest chance. But I think given the sentiment they have, given that we're running into the weekend, there is a really good chance actually that we can make that move with that strength up. 1 hour, I mean, again, just showing the same picture there. We've also got, I suppose, another range to fall back on, which would be in and around down here. I notice I haven't done a fib yet. I'm just going to leave this for the next set of charts. So maybe we come back down and retest this before we move up. We have to see how, we've got an hour and a half or so till the real market's open, and we'll see if there's any negative sentiment that can seep from there down to that. But right now, the only thing that I'm really seeing with altcoins, it's maybe pullbacks of just, not turning around as such, but rather just sort of taking breathers or profit taking. So we'll see some of the other ones have significantly shot up. We'll move on to BitTensor because I know people want to do that rather than the other alts initially. And so interesting with BitTensor really, because I'm on the daily. Yeah. So we had that, unlike us, we actually had a clear topping pattern here, and that played out quite nicely. And then even on the daily, you can kind of just about make out what I'm going to draw on the 4 hour, which is some form of double bottom there with a waistline there that we've managed to break through, and we're starting to work our way up. The problem we have with BitTensor is that fall down that it had was more severe than most of the other altcoins on us. It's just got more ground to gain, which for those of you that can get back in now and have an earlier opportunity into an earlier entry point, then okay, you've got an opportunity for better gains there. Can we make it? But whereas Ethereum made its local high and Bitcoin made it back up to the area it was ranging in, the area that BitTensor's ranging is about 412. So we've still got about $40 in and around to get through that. Again, let me just get a trend line drawn up. Just trying to see if there's anything there. Nothing really with the wicks that you could say. I was originally looking at that, thinking maybe we have a line and a rejection there, but actually it's come back through, and then this candle here, and I promise you when we get onto the that's going to be, I reckon that's got to be a vector. We broke through that, and then we're coming back down today, maybe to go on. So maybe this is just a nice trend line to have a look at. I mean, this goes back to the April crash, sort of similar to what we're looking at with Bitcoin and everything else, and we just happened to nudge below it. But as long as we stay above it, then maybe we've got a bit of hope there. And again, without trying to look at other EMAs, fibs, or vectors, sentiment for yourself now should be, even on the daily time frame, well, unless we can break this level and lose this, turn it into a triple bottom, the double bottom fail to materialize through, really your sentiment, in my opinion, has to be one of sort of a bullish nature. And if you are still out of the market, okay, just take time to just say to yourself, okay, well, why am I still out of BitTensor? Has my or your fundamental belief changed, and am I just being biased because I want it to go further down? Don't let that opportunity slip you by, because when I show you on the vector candles a little bit later on, I think there's some targets that, if we feel that this is the level it's going to turn around at, I think there's a very easy target for it to get back to, which then it may fail after that, but it's a good opportunity to make some money from that. Link, I think, is one we need to talk about. Look at the, sorry, I didn't finish BitTensor. Apologies. Let's go down the lower time frames. And again, this is looking like the nice double bottom we talked about there. Yes, would we have wanted to go lower? Absolutely. It got down to as low as, earlier this week, right, so 326, pretty close to the Gandalf line of 320. Second side around about 335, and then we've had that sort of steady move up there. Do I think there's a potential for a bit further pullback? Even just looking at this, yes, I would say there probably is. But we're only talking, $10 maybe. So if you're looking to trade it, fair enough. If you're just looking to get back into spot position, you're going to question how much $10 is really worth to you. There is another level that we need to, we have had some action in and around at the past, which we're kind of on at the moment. You can kind of see a little bit of a shoulder here. and then on our way back down we had it. So we have rejected from it in this candle, and again, next level to get through, but without any other evidence there, doesn't seem like too bad a target to get through. And then there's a vector candle here, you know there's going to be, that's where I'd be looking. We get above 380, and this level, actually just remember 378, because when I show you it with EMAs, it's actually an important level. We get above that 380 level, I think it's pretty much clean air, in my opinion, to recover the vectors from 320 to 330. And that's sort of the move that I think we can take place. Going on to Link, I just want to show you Link. We'll just stay on the 4 hour for now. So I don't know if there must have been some news about it, but Link has shown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles in 9 minutes time, 8 green candles in a row, which is a hell of a move. I do think there's probably going to be a pullback from Link. Whatever the news was, it seems to be very well received. But in terms of the pattern, this has led the pack. We had the W formation. We've got the neckline there. It shot through it. This hasn't pulled back, and it's come through. It didn't have any issue with previous sort of levels. Maybe that one, I was thinking that was a level, but kind of is. Maybe this one is, I don't know where to do that level. Maybe there, and just say it through. But either way, it's shot through. It's cleared through. Sort of that high as well. We're currently resting on it at the moment. And if this thing isn't going to turn around, then I think $20 is probably a very realistic target. It's actually only about 5% away from getting to that. So 2.5%, I think, actually. So yeah, another strong move there from Link. And then we're looking at XRP. And again, XRP, relatively good name. So XRP had a bit of a different experience, I suppose, similar-esque in terms of BitTensor, that it fell hard. But we had that huge move up, you know, here. New all-time high excitement, and then, like it always does, it just came all the way back down. We kind of talked with vectors and EMAs of levels that we thought it might get back down to, and lo and behold, I promise I don't make it up, it hit the 618 perfectly down here, and then it's bounced up again. It had a little bit of fun and games in around the 0.5 and the 382. We're above the 236 at the moment. And again, yesterday there was some good news sentiment. I think they've kind of put to bed officially the SEC case now, and I think that's what helped moved it up there. So yeah, whether or not we can now stick this 236 and then build again for retaking that all-time high, I don't know. But there's potentially a good trade to be had in and around here. Maybe something to have a look at this afternoon for myself. I'll leave that one as it is. But yeah, XRP has done well with that. Total 3. Let's have a look at. So you want ETH versus Total 3. I don't have it. Let me build it. So you want Total 3, which will be this. That's not what I'm meant to do. Divided by ETH. Yeah. Okay. I think mine's the other way around here, but we'll see how this one has. Did that just build it for me? There we go. I needed its dominance, didn't I? Because this has done it as monetary value. But what we can see is Total 3 is still falling away versus Ethereum. It's on the 4 hour time frame. So Ethereum is still dominant. So I think that's the point you're trying to make there, Bijan. It is still falling away, which would suggest in the phases, you know, that picture I put up, the phases of an alt season, phase 1 being Bitcoin, phase 2 being Ethereum. Don't know why I'm trying to type this out for you. And then that's 1, that's 2, 3. Phase 3 being altcoins. It looks like I'm not going to fully circle this. Maybe there's a little bit of hope for anyone that's still holding Bitcoin with there, but it's certainly in that kind of region. But yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Okay, I just want to maybe rehash some other things, but just have a look at where we are with the things that I normally use to trade from, and then we'll go from there. As I say, I know someone asked me to have a look at Coinbase as well, which I will touch on that too. But if we just go on to Bitcoin here, and now we can start to see some other reasons that we turned around. We talked about 50 EMA, daily time frame, what we like to see, and again, clearly down to the 50 EMA. We've recovered the vectors here. We're now above the 10 and the 20 and the 50. Everything's sort of moving in the right direction. There's no real vectors left for us to recover above us, and except for what we talked about on Tuesday, this vector down here, is nothing on the daily. We're actually okay to just potentially range or just build our way back up. No real attraction from any of those. We go on to the 4 hour, and yes, we have left some vectors behind us. So we have, W formation, we broke through. Actually, we broke through with a vector, Kobo back down, another vector came back up here. And you could argue maybe that this blue one is prime for a take-in. There's the 50 and the 200 in and around that one for a sort of a proper Kobo, a Kobo actually on the neckline, the waistline of this double bottom, tied in with these drops here. Absolutely, it could happen. I wouldn't necessarily count on it. Yes, wait to see what happens with that one, but don't be surprised actually if we've had enough of attempts at that kind of level, and this is just a vector that just is going to sit, and we may not end up ranging it. But you can kind of see that still the only vectors we've got when we get to the 4 hour are above 20,000, so above that top of that range that we've got to kind of get through, which maybe we can, maybe we can't. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm just wondering if this is anything. No, I don't think so. I was like, no. I mean, I'd be stretching to try and get that to connect there. So I don't think there's anything necessarily potentially where we're running into at the moment. We will throw a fib on, just see if that does anything for us, I suppose. I mean, this fib worked relatively well. It's bloody confusing with all the lines. I accept. If I go down the right. Yeah, okay, we've moved up down to the 618, lo and behold, on Sunday. Okay, good to see. Didn't quite make it to the 382, but almost. Had a bit of a, smudging around the 0.5, and then we're above the 382 now. We're now above it. We're pretty much retesting it. So, I think that kind of lends to where we were with that one. Let's get rid of that fib. In terms of anyone that's wanting to sort of trade it, let's just go down the 15 minutes, see if there's anything down here that we can really glean from. I mean, this is the larger W formation that we talked about. That's it there. Then what have we had? So on the 15-minute, breakout from here, rise 1, rise 2, in a consolidation for rise 2. So maybe we're on the 15-minute, we've got one more rise in us to really battle that point of control. We talked about 1800, or maybe try and get to the top range of that at 120,000. Potentially, there is, but right now this feels like, if anything, it's a consolidation, and this was the move up. Would I take a short from here? No. Would I look for a long? Yes. I think that's probably where I'd be sitting right now. So watch it do the opposite, obviously. That's how those things work out. Okay. Bit tensor then. So this is where bit tensor is a bit interesting. Maybe not as simple as what we'd originally alluded to. Excuse me, I'll take a drink. Yes, we've had the W formation, but just look at what it's running into right now. The 10, the 50, and the 200 EMA, all on the daily time frame. It's where this is starting to have its sticking point. And that's what I mean. If we can get above that 380 or 377 level, I think we're in a really strong position to then have that move up, because that is a lot of a battle. That is a big battleground for us to get through. And I'm trying to see if there's any time when we had a similar kind of occurrence. I don't think we will have done. Not really. So we've got a lot to get through just from EMAs. I don't know where to draw this fib. Do I draw it from down here, or do I do it from here? Well, let's cheat. Let's do both, shall we? If you don't get the answer you want first time, try again. I don't think you want to set this right. Okay, there we go. Bit better. So that probably works okay, actually. We lost the 618, we've come back, and the 0.5 on that fib is also where the 50 EMA is. It's also where the 200 EMA is, the 10 EMA is. So certainly a bit of resistance in and around there, which we just need to be mindful of. Not taking away anything from what it's done over the past couple of days, But there's a good shout that that move now could have happened. We just need for it to ultimately reset. And I'm just wondering, actually, if I do top, what am I trying to achieve here? I have no idea. Not that. Let's try that one again. So top to the bottom. So from this move right from the wick down to here, we're running into the 318. That's not what I was actually trying to see if I could show myself there. Actually, I was wondering if it was a 50% retracement, but it isn't. It's not quite got to that 50%. You know, from a dead cat bounce point of view, I think it's 50% if you did it from here. Which okay, almost 50%, but I think we're just clutching at straws there. So it's definitely something just to consider and have a look at with BitTensor there. Going down on the 4 hour, I think it looks better, but now the 800 and the 200 is what we're running into, which makes sense. Bearing in mind it's normally the 50 and the 200 that we're talking. So there's that there, but we are above the 50. You can see vector candle is getting us away from the W formation, but as I pointed out earlier, we're running into that cluster there. So we just got to find some strength to get through. Obviously, if we can't, down to 360, which I talked about before, because we thought it'd be a vector, would be somewhere that'd be looking. That's still relatively bullish because it's just a retest of the breakout of the W formation before we can end up moving back up. So, you know, if we can't find the strength now and we have to come back down to go again, I don't think that's necessarily too much of a problem from the 4 hour point of view. But they would be the points for me. Break 180, absolutely happy. Lose 160, then we're talking about ending up back in here, and we'll start talking about that another time. 1 hour, bit of movement coming through, but you know, to be expected. And now this is, you know, when I said about breaking that 180 level, sorry, 380 level, you know, these are the vector candles that I'm sort of talking about. Yeah, there's a little one here up to 400, but it's these up here. And I think if we can show strength above this level, then I think there's an opportunity for a move up there that even if it doesn't last, even if we don't stick the landing, because we know we haven't before with my red line up here, there's still a $50 move. There's still a 17%, you know, uplift opportunity for anyone that's willing to take it. And I think that's fine because there's not much in the way afterwards. So yeah, that'd be what I'd be looking at. And I'm just waiting for that 380, see whether or not there's a long opportunity to try and take through there. Right now, I'm not really seeing too much. It looks like a dog's dinner, but I'm not really seeing too much with BitTensor. Yeah, we've had that move up. We're just sort of, you know, still climbing and consolidating at the same time. But I think there's more pressing indicators on the higher time frames. And so I just don't really want to press my luck going on anything right now. Maybe we'll see how the market opens in the next hour and a half, 2 hours time, and go from there. Oh, you know what I've done? Not on the right. Here we go. So let's have a look at Ethereum. Again, we have this strong move we talked about previously. We've left the vectors, but the 20's done well for us. We lost it a little bit, okay, but generally it did catch us. We regained it, and now we're back above that 10 EMAs. We're still having that relatively strong move up, and we know that we can stay away from the 50 EMA for, you know, good 4 to 6 weeks if we need to on the daily time frame. So there's no urgency for this to get back. We're about a month away from it at the moment. And just keep on letting this one climb up. But just be mindful, it is still all the way down at 3,200. So there could be a bit of a snap pullback there, but I don't necessarily think so at the moment. Yes, the rejection from 400 may ultimately lead us bleeding down there, but I don't think we're going to see a snap drop down. From the 4 hour point of view, I actually think it looks pretty good. We didn't vector away. But I bet if we get down on sort of a lower one, what time frame was that? 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Why is it goes up there and down here? Was it 1 o'clock on Wednesday? It goes down on this candle. Just okay, interesting. Not sure that's telling me anything then. Go back. pretend that didn't happen and just carry on. So with the 4 hour, again, we're not really being that away from that 50 EMA for any worrying length of time. We have got a nice clean vector in and around here, which has only been partially eaten into, and the bottom of that is currently tying in with a 50 EMA at 370. I think if we do reject from here, that'd be the point. I think maybe we need to consider what our options are. It's the waistline of that W formation. Be where the 50 EMA is. It's a recovery of the vector candle. A good bounce from there is a long opportunity. If we lose that, then maybe we start having to talk about coming back down and retesting some of these lower ones. But right now, it just feels like we've had the move up. We're just consolidating. It's amazing. I wonder how long that vector candle's been there for. Probably the best part of 12 months, and we just can't seem to find the strength to get through and break it, which is a bit of a shame. But who knows where it may turn going forward. XRP on the lower time frames. Yeah, so we only partially ate into. We talk about vectors. This move down, we found ourselves coming back in, but again, dying is back down. But on the 4 hour time frame, we go on the lower one, you'd assume that was a falling compression, wait for another move back up, and I think that's probably exactly where we are. This is a bigger move away from the 50 EMA, so yes, we can spend some time away from it, but at some stage we will be called back, and it's just going to take a bit more time for this to sort of creep up to where we need to be with XRP. On the 1 hour time frame though, yeah, just sort of nice little consolidation here. We are making we are making lower highs on the 1 hour each time, I will accept, but we're still finding a base in and around 330, and as long as they can keep on holding that, then absolutely fine for that move up. And I still think the XRP army just does its own thing, but I never look for retesting around there. If we have to do it that way, fair enough. Even if we have to do it that way, which I think would feel pretty bad, but it's already at 316, so it's not too far away from where we currently are. But I think I'd probably have one of those two first, with how it looks. Which ones have I not talked about? Solana. Okay, Solana's had it's only in the hourly, but Solana had that rejection from 200, and again, big fallback down. Lost the 50, to be honest, but just general sentiment just took it around, and now we're building the right way above it all. Plenty of room to go, but I'd say 184. We've got that shoulder kind of there. The previous peaks here. I think that's probably our next battle to get through, and then once we get down to the lower time frames, you're kind of going to see. Once we get through that 84, we've just got this hump before we can then try and clear out up to there. So 190, maybe something to what you want to ultimately have a look at. I just wondered from this fall, this might be the right way. I'm going to draw them. What I'm trying to do is, before we get to, I just want to see how it's done in the past. And it's kind of worked out quite nicely with this one. We are above the 382. We're just building from that. So let's try and keep above. Let's just quote 175. And then sort of get to that, 618 is at the bottom of that vector zone. And there's a few vectors to take out on the way, but yeah, I think that's funny there. Dutapano, Pot, BTC Tower, and SPX. Pretty much, yeah. I sold the majority, not at the best timing, I admit, of my Link, Ondo, and Near, which I converted some into cash for trading, and the rest into BTC. So yeah, it is. My SPX, it hasn't got any bigger pot side, but it has been one that I've been trying to trade. Sometimes successfully, sometimes sadly not. Just I'm not at the charts enough. But that's a lesson that we all need to learn every so often. Speaking of SPX, this one for a meme has, again, just I think it's a pretty healthy looking chart here. And from even from a daily point of view, I was waiting. I think I said for it to get back down to this 50 EMA, which it has done. And previously it's come back down. It's felt like the end of the world, and it's just showed renewed strength from that. And unless the market sentiment overall is going to change, that's my opinion with where SPX is going as well. I don't want to be buying anymore. It's weird. It's sort of like that cost fallacy of like, I got in at 15 cents. Do I really want to be buying some at $1.77? No. Even though, hey, even if it goes to $10, actually, I'm not saying it will. $1.77 is a good price to get in, but you almost have that. It feels too much. So I'd rather just be trading it at the moment, which as I say, I'm trying to do. I'm already out and looking for a new re-entry as it speaks, but nothing really appealing to me right now. Ultimately on that one, I want to see. I might be being greedy, waiting for another retest down here. If we go on to the 4 hour, maybe more looking sort of bottom of this channel, retesting this double bottom. So it's going to be about 170 to about 166 before we ultimately try and make a move from that one. But it has proven to be quite successful. Just a weird sort of mentality behind it, almost like the XRP army. If we are going to make it, believe in something different or whatever they always throw at you. But it has been one of my more successful ones. So yeah, I'm going to stick with it. On the 1 hour, yeah, just sort of snaking up and again just making vectors and reclaiming them, making them and reclaiming them. I've got no problem with that one. I mean, you could argue that there's a wick up here because I just do the vectors from the body, but nothing's touched this, so there's definitely a level to get in and around that. I've realised that we've been rabbiting on already 40 minutes. So I will have a quick chat about coin because someone asked me to talk about it. I'll do it on the clean chat to start off with. So I think someone said that they left at 360. And they do. I mean, getting out of 360, I don't know where you got in at, but it's obviously gapped down quite significantly from that. I don't know how this forms, whether it's part of a pension pot or whether it's just a standard investment. But ultimately, we have dropped since you potentially got out 20%. And so if it's a long-term hold, there's a good opportunity there to be had. This 300 level, fairly decent amount of noise in and around there. And I don't know roughly, really what the sentiment was for such a big sell-off down here. Yes, you could try and hold out to see if we can get down to sort of this range here. But the old adage, and it works for everything, is just these gaps generally do get filled. And you just got to be careful if you try and be too greedy, because the top of the gap is 360, and before you know it, it might gap way beyond and just go before it. So Jeff was it? Hey there, Jeff. Well, if you bought it massively low and you're just looking to sort of rebuild from this, you've made every share you're going to buy back is $50 cheaper. So seems pretty good. And even if it goes lower, it's not like you're going to be in the red from that one. I think my mentality with the pension pots is obviously very different to how we trade. I do have a 20-year horizon on that, so I'm trying not to necessarily be too greedy. But for me, I think that's, I didn't read these indicators here. I think that's probably where I'd be looking at, the 20 and the 50. Yes, you could look to do some there, and again, it's just about your risk appetite. Perhaps then you try and have a look. I don't know if it was an earnings thing, because it is earnings there. I've got to assume earnings related, they just didn't meet. Surprise it was. Okay, they were quite significantly under, I suppose. So yeah, the way the market's going and how Coinbase is kind of linked, I'm not in Coinbase, so just be careful with how you want to do it. Maybe you split it up and buy some back and just buy some now, see if it goes south. If it doesn't, make sure you buy before we sort of launch through this gap here. I mean, speaking of one that I am quite happy with, and I think the sentiment still remains the same, is Circle is coming back down. I don't have any yet, and I told you that I want to get in on it. Again, gaps to be filled. There's a tiny little gap here to be filled, but actually it doesn't look like it, but this is a gap because the candle before wicked and then it closed and then it gapped up. So this is technically a gap, sub 100. And I think for me, because it's a pension, I'm just going to sit and wait and just see, if it comes all the way back down. If I have to wait to a bear market, I'll do it. We talk about, IPOs and how there's just so much excitement in the market, this huge run up. It launched at 35, I think, and it got up to over 300 at one stage. Then what have we had? Every profit taken, people then shilling it again, it rises back up, and then those who originally in it get the second bite of the cherry to sell, and now we're just coming back down. It's a tale as old as time, really. So I feel like this is probably going to continue to move back down. and I'm happy to wait. And as Bijan kind of said, Coinbase did IPO the market at top of 2021, absolutely. And I don't think Circle is coming with the same level of fanfare. I think there's just, because it's stables rather than an exchange. But regardless, my point is that Coinbase then utterly crashed. It did IPO at the top of the market, at $400 or whatever. But look how low it went to in the bear market. I mean, if you 35, so what a bargain you could have had to get down there. And a kind of similar picture. If you look at it, it's a similar picture. We don't, okay, it didn't have this spike up that Circle did, but it did that, did this, and then it's going to fall away. That's what I'm waiting for. And I'm happy to sit there and wait for it. I have some pension money just sat in cash that maybe I could do some better use, but I'm happy just to sit on that and just see where it rides. MicroStrategy, I mean, it's found its local bottom again in and around these levels of 360, and it's starting to move back up. Still, you go back to Trump's victory at 540, still a long way off that. But again, 540 down to 220, you can see how volatile this is. Sailors, trying to raise some more money. I don't particularly think this is a great investment strategy from a pension point of view for people who are already crypto minded. I'm going to have it's a bit of a segue into what I'm going to talk about the cuddle anyway, but I'm going to kind of discuss my thoughts on all of this a little bit later on. But, we are in crypto. I think we have a better opportunity to take advantage of things. And I just don't really get the infinite money glitch. I've got just a nagging feeling that in 20 years' time, you're either going to be absolutely making it or the scheme's going to come crashing down. We'll have to wait and see. Nvidia's doing very, very well. Tesla's kind of can't really make its mind up on what to do. Anything else really to look at? Bitcoin dominance, I suppose. We're coming up on an interesting level with Bitcoin dominance. The green line kind of represents it, but it's this sort of shoulder at 0.35, 0.035. And then obviously, as I mentioned on Tuesday, looking for that 0.04 level. Break that, then we can start talking about it. But, for the last 3 years, this trend line has been, look, so that seesaw that we talk about, that's what I needed to really break. Then Ethereum's the play, then into alts. That's my opinion anyway. Anything else? I'm just conscious of the time more than anything else. Bitcoin dominance. USDT dominance. Interesting, we've not looked at this for a while. We talked about that move back down. We're just continuing to fulfill that move back down here. But it's this 3.82 level. It's the past has seen us turn around so many times. We're not far away from it now at the moment. Alt season could still continue to run into this. And then it's what we do here. Because again, we haven't really lost that level since the bear market, since January 2022. So maybe that's a sign of retail. Those retail that just sat in stables for the last 4 years coming back in. Who knows? Speaking of that, before we duck off then, let's just have a look at where is altcoin season indicator. 39. So actually, funnily enough, I know Bitcoin dominance has come down. Maybe this hasn't updated. But a couple of days ago, this was 49. Now it's 39. Still feels like actually altcoins aren't doing that well. And I think maybe what this is, because this takes, Bitcoin's performance against the whole top 100, is those top 20 have performed far greater than the bottom 80, I suppose. And so it may not be reflected in the chart here, but it has impacted Bitcoin's dominance just because they had a larger market share in the first place and they're just eating it up. I don't know, maybe something to look into for someone. But yeah, I was surprised that actually it's got down. I would have thought it'd at least be climbing back up. I got the hiccups now, can't believe it. Fear and Greed at 60, old season, they're at 38 as well. I think that's probably enough. I've rabbited it on, sorry about that. I don't know if doing it on the simpler charts is better than just doing it on the ones I normally do. Trying to make it a bit easier for you. And I know, one, not everybody buys into market maker theory, and two, not everybody uses those indicators. So, hey, just let me know in Discord which way you prefer it. If you don't mind both, whatever it is. I'll be back on Tuesday night. I will do another one of these next Friday, and then I'm away for a couple of weeks. I will try do them whilst I'm away. I'm actually on a cruise on one of the weeks, so I'll be interested in the internet. But I will still be as active as I can be. I think, I said it in plenty of venture calls before, we're in the point where we're heating up. And we don't want to, we're in the slog months, yes, but we don't want to it's a slog months. We've got to have a negative mentality at all times, because this thing can turn around quite quickly. So just, even, I mean, a bit like me, I want it to go well, but I always play both sides of just what is it actually doing. I think that's just all you've got to do. But don't get too transfixed on, no, yesterday I said it was going to go down. It might still go down. Yes, there's always an opportunity to not act immediately, but don't just continually let your bias take over. And especially for those of us that like to sidestep, it can, it can catch you out. And I don't want anyone to be like that. I've done it before. I've done it this cycle. You could argue I'm still doing it sometimes when I'm trying to do it with Tau or whatever. So let's, try and better ourselves with that. Right, that's enough of me rambling on. Have a great weekend, everyone. Watch out for weekend traps, obviously. Post any questions that you have. Post all the charts that you're doing as well. I really like seeing those. And I'll speak to you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Cheers now.